So taking a look at the greenhouse effect and the dramatic video that I included in the early slides, you can see that climate change is an issue and people are looking at the consequences of this, including the melting of the polar ice caps, impact on wildlife, impact on sea level rise. It's a serious issue, and we'll get into the debate of man's role in increasing the threat of climate change. But let's take a look at this number, and this is a important number. It's also an important organization. 350.org is a climate advocacy group that was founded by Bill McKibben, who's one of the authors whose books we're going to be reading this semester. He's a great advocate. He's been writing on climate change since the early 1980s. And he founded 350.org with the idea that we were going to try to curb our carbon emissions and try to bring climate change under control. We're going to be using a lot of their material this quarter, and we'll be using some of their educational materials. They're a barometer for what is going on, both in terms of climate change and political advocacy around the world. So it's a great organization. It's worth taking a look at. 350.org is the web address. But where did the 350 come from? We'll get into the history of this a little bit. We're going to read about the history of the climate change debate, but wanted to bring your attention to this. When I started teaching courses on sustainability, I started talking about why climate change was important. So I started here at the NASA website, and the Goddard Institute is the research institute inside of NASA that focuses on climate change. And they've been tracking the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which we're going to talk about in the next couple weeks. And back in 2014, I started tracking, or this is 2013, I started tracking this, going to the website, identifying the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. So back in 2013, it was 397. And then a year later, I gave the same lecture. I just updated it, went back to the website in 2014. It was up to 399. You can see it there. And then in 2015, I went back. Sure enough, it had gone over 400 parts per million for the first time in history, a threshold that people were worried about for a very long time. Obviously, the world hasn't ended, but we're still dealing with this threat, and the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere continues to rise. There it is in 2016. And you can see it's jumped in 2015 to 2016. It jumped about 3 parts per million. There was probably an 18-month interval in this between the 2015 and the 2016 reading. But it's been going up steadily. And here you can see at the same time you can get some ideas of some of the other indicators. Global temperature since 1880, the amount of Arctic ice, the percent per decade reduction. This is kind of frightening, 13% reduction. And the gigatons of ice, land ice lost per year, and the amount of sea level rise in millimeters per year. These are all really important indicators. So I didn't stop. 2017, I gave the lecture and I updated this. And sure enough, it's up another almost 3 parts per million in a year. And temperature here has suddenly jumped up 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880, whereas before it had been steady at 1.4 degrees. This was 2018. This is earlier this year. It's gone up about a point, and I think this is a 6-month interval thereabout. This was in January, where it had jumped to 407. So this has been a steady increase, and then here you can see temperature has stayed at 1.7 degrees above the 1880 levels. Yeah, this was January 2018. This is a great website. We're going to take a look at the website and some of the tools that NASA has available so we can keep our eyes on this and look at some of the things that are available to us. I'll have you guys download some interesting tools that they have so we can explore the impact of climate change on our planet and on our cities.